podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No breaks. No breaks. No fear. No fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along. I'm Ian Brannan. Great to be back with you as we head into the part of the season which is dominated by playoffs and this week 1 or 2 rain-offs. And a bit of drama at Ashfield as well as the Glasgow Tigers and the Poole Pirates clashed. And, well, fair to say, there were a few talking points.
I don't usually get wound up, I'm quite a calm guy, and I just feel like sometimes when things are done in the wrong way, they need to be addressed, and if you just let people get away with it, they do it all the more.
Well, there's Steve Worrell. We'll hear more from him in just a bit, find out what he was talking about. And our main guest this week is the Poole Pirates captain and captain of the Ipswich Witches. Danny King joins us to talk about life in the Premiership playoffs and in the Championship as well with the Poole Pirates. So all that to come. And we'll have a look ahead to what's coming up over the coming week because we've got some key fixtures in the bag to bring you and some reaction from some of the recent fixtures. Not least the rain-off on Monday at Wolves. And we'll hear from Stuart Dixon as his Leicester Lions book their place in the Championship Grand Final. All that and more to come on No Breaks, No Fear.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along, and joining me to work our way through a week of playoffs and rain-offs is somebody who's been involved in both. Danny King is with us, Poole Pirates and Ipswich Witches captain. Welcome along, Danny. Good to have you on.
How you doing?
Oh, good, thanks. Yeah, well, let's start by looking at your season overall, I suppose, because 2022 was a little bit more back to normality for Speedway, wasn't it? It seems quite a while now, thinking back to April, but we had 2020 and 2021 with COVID and things starting late and not going to plan, but much more like normal, generally speaking, in 2022. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, there was. It was nice to get going in March when we should have done. Obviously, the year before we didn't start till May, so it was really good to get going. As a whole, it's been good. It started a bit steady. I don't know why. I finished last season really good, in good form, and I seem to start a little bit slower this year, which is frustrating, but we made some changes and felt like I turned my form around, and now I'm enjoying my Speedway again. I'm back to number 1 at Poole, which is where I want to be, and hopefully can lead from the front, especially this time of year when the playoffs.
And both of your teams are, of course, in the playoffs. And starting with Ipswich, you've been at the top of the table for most of the year. And was it a bit frustrating to get to last week where there was that, obviously couldn't be helped, the break because of the death of the Queen, ultimately led to you missing that fixture there. You didn't have the chance to defend your lead at the top of the table there, but now you found yourself up against Bellevue. Either way, in the playoffs, I guess you've got to ride them all if you're going to win the title. But what was the situation there, really, and your thoughts amongst the team with having really given that fixture away as well to Sheffield, and ultimately they overtook you?
Yeah, it is disappointing. I can't say I'm happy with it for sure. I mean, I don't see why we couldn't have delayed and managed to squeeze an extra meeting in. It just seems unfair when we've worked hard all year and we've been at the top of the table pretty much all season, and at the last day of the actual league campaign, we dropped down to second. But there's nothing we can do about it now. We have to get on with it. Bellevue is a tough side, but I feel like we can go out and beat anyone over 2 legs, and that's what you need to do in the playoffs.
And your team, of course, a very, very strong team built this year, and people will be aware of maybe the situation last year where it was best laid plans and it all sort of fell apart a little bit, whereas this year there was no chances taken and a really strong side, including yourself, but also Troy Batchelor, Jason Doyle. You've also brought in Aaron Summers, for example, through the course of the season as well. So a real strong lineup, and really having Jason Doyle, when he's been on form, and which he has been more often than not, he's been devastating, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, Jason's barely dropped a point all year. It feels like he's a fantastic rider, and he's an even better team man. And, he has been the difference this year that Ipswich needed, an out-and-out number 1, someone who you can rely on every week and take the pressure off the rest of the team. And then that makes the rest of the guys want to do better and back him up. They're not putting as much pressure on themselves. And it sort of worked for us. As I say, we've been at the top pretty much all year. And it's, as I say, it is disappointing to drop off top spot. But at the end of the day, we've got to race them all. I like the team changes that we've made, certainly going into the playoffs. I think it suits us bringing in, obviously, Aaron and Rowan. I think Rowan, he's used to riding the big track, so albeit Sheffield, Bellevue, he should feel at home there, and that's the extra boost we need. And as I say, it's over a 2-leg tie, so if you can win away, great, but if not, keep it close and take it to the home leg.
Your first fixture is coming up later this week on Thursday, and of course you are taking on Bellevue. When you've faced Bellevue so far this season, Ipswich you've won your home matches, but you've struggled away. So it sets it up for a perfect encounter, really. Maybe you would say your last trip to the National Speedway Stadium a bit of a freak one. It was like one of those where what can go wrong did go wrong, maybe.
100%. I think we actually got a point there earlier in the year, so we know we can keep them close. But yeah, last time I'm not really sure what happened. Everyone seemed to have an off night on the same day, and obviously you can't have that during playoff speedway. But hopefully we've got that out of the way, and we learned from that. And heading back there now, we need to be on top form, and hopefully we will be. And they're obviously suffering a little bit with injury as well. They've lost Max Frick now, haven't they? So. He's a big key rider for them. He's fantastic around the National Speedway Stadium, and he actually scored a lot of points at Foxhall on his last visit. So, hopefully that will play into our favour. But I'm sure they're going to be able to get a capable guest in as well.
Yeah, well, their guest will have to come from either Kings Lynn or Peterborough, of course, or rider replacement. But you'd think they'd probably go for a guest, wouldn't you? In that, wouldn't you be anticipating that? I suppose.
I think so. I think it's risky going RR in playoff speedway. If another rider gets injured, then you're really struggling as a team to try and cover the rides, and it puts a lot more pressure on the bottom end of the team, obviously.
Let's hear from the Bellevue Aces team manager then. Mark Lemon has been looking at the prospect of facing the Ipswich Witches in the playoffs after they ended their regular season at the hands of the Sheffield Tigers last Thursday, where it was quite a thumping defeat, actually. They went down 57-33 at Ollerton. Here is Mark Lemon with Ryan Guest.
Well, team manager Mark Lemon, Ipswich Witches coming up now then in the Premiership playoff semi-finals for the Aces. Your thoughts on that semi-final tie?
Looking forward to it, first and foremost. Obviously, it's playoffs time. The boys know that they've got to step it up come this time of year. We came here to Sheffield tonight. We knew it was sort of slightly a bit of a dead rubber. A win would have probably given us an edge, obviously, going into the semi-final, but that wasn't to be. We certainly missed Max Frick tonight, and hopefully have him back next Thursday. But yeah, no, we're looking forward to the playoffs. It's going to be a big challenge. It's a clean slate. We start again, the 4 teams. But we have no fears going to Ipswich. Yeah, and the first leg at Foxhall, and certainly been 2 entertaining meetings in the regular season there as well. I think it was a 4-point defeat and a 10-point defeat, so you've proven you can keep it relatively close there. Yeah, true, and obviously I think what the main key really for us is that we maintain our home form. Our home form's been really dominant throughout the course of the season. As long as we keep that up, it puts us in a really good position. Probably more so than some other seasons. But it's playoff speedway. We're never going to take anything for granted.
And as for Max Frick, best wishes to him. He's put a post on social media saying he suffered a broken sternum, bruised lungs, sprained shoulder, cracked shoulder blade, and concussion as a result of his crash at the weekend. It was the playoff finals there, wasn't it, in League One in Poland, I think, and that's very much the end of his season. It sounds like a painful one, that.
Yeah, that's not nice to hear. Max is a great guy, and you don't want to hear any rider getting injured, but it's just very unfortunate for Max. One thing I can say on that is I've broken my sternum before, and it is the most uncomfortable thing in the world. It is not nice. You don't realise how much you use your chest to just move around. Sit up in a chair or get up or to sit up and lay down is just a nightmare, and it's excruciating pain. So I hope he's on the mend. I hope he's not too bad, and he can recover quickly.
Yeah, best wishes to Max Frick. We know that Speedway riders are made of tough stuff, but he's got a few injuries there going on, but he's looking forward to getting back for next year, and all the best to him. Now, Wolverhampton are going to stage their Premiership playoff semi-final home leg against Sheffield next Monday, after this last Monday's original attempt was beaten by the weather, with riders and officials in agreement to postpone the fixture. It does mean that, therefore, both legs of that tie will happen next week, with a return next Thursday at Ollerton. And obviously they're in the other side of the draw in the playoffs from your team, Ipswich Danny, but looking over what's happening at the other side of the fence, what do you reckon between Wolves and Sheffield? Because two very different tracks, of course, but Sheffield have got one or two riders among their ranks who have got experience around Monmore, and that home advantage really is key for Wolves, isn't it?
Exactly that. They've slipped up a few times at home this year, but they'll be aware of that, and going into the playoffs, they know how important their home track advantage needs to be. So, obviously it wasn't possible on Monday. The rain was just way too much, and you wasn't able to get the meeting on. But I'm sure, come next Monday, they're going to be G'd up, and because they're going to want to take a big lead to Sheffield, that's for sure.
Well, let's hear from a couple of those figures involved. We'll hear from Simon Stead in a moment, but first of all, we'll hear from the Wolves captain, Sam Masters, with Ryan Guest.
Well, Sam, I'm guessing it wouldn't be a playoff night at Monmore Green without a bit of a rain. Seems to be a bit of a trend over these past few years.
Yeah, I didn't really want to do another playoff semi-final in the weather. Obviously, it's not my call, but it was unsafe to race today, so I think it was the right call, and hopefully next week we can come back and race in dry weather. We
have seen that in the past two attempts at the semi-final where it's gone ahead in bad conditions, and obviously the rain coming down, and it certainly does lose any home track advantage for a starter, doesn't it?
Well, that's just showed the last two seasons. We've lost our home track advantage, and it's cost us the league, really, and we've always had a good enough team to win the league, so I'm happy that we can come here and do it the best way possible for us to win the league, and I think that's to have a normal racetrack.
Having said that, like you say, that wasn't any factor tonight, though. Once that final downpour came, while those discussions were ongoing, that put end to anything, didn't it?
Yeah, both teams didn't want to race. It wasn't just us. It's no fun. It's dangerous. No one can see anyway, and no one even wants to watch that. So it's just better to call it off, and have a proper racetrack when we come here next Monday.
Yeah, and when the semi-final does get up and running, obviously against Sheffield, and we have seen some really close encounters between these two teams this year.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's been about 3 or 4 meetings where it's been 46-44 against Sheffield this year, so we're a very close battled team, and we want to keep it like that, and it's good for the league, good for Speedway, and if it's just a bit of a whitewash, it's no good. So but I think us against Sheffield will be pretty exciting.
Well, there's Sam Masters of Wolves, and right now the Sheffield team manager Simon Stead chatting with Ryan about the decision to postpone the meeting this last Monday to rerun it next week.
Well, Simon Stead, obviously a frustrating one, obviously, after all the build-up, all the preparations. Frustrating, first and foremost, to have the first leg abandoned.
Yeah, it's obviously disappointing, but you can't ever beat the weather. So the right decision's been made. Obviously, rider safety comes first, and the track's now, unfortunately, after this last band of rain, it's just not held up. So we come again another day and give it another go.
I was going to say discussions were taking place between the two promoters and the two team captains as well, but like you say, as you popped your head out of the meeting room, another downpour came, and that really was the end to any discussion.
Well, up until that point, certainly ourselves were keen to get the meeting on, because we felt like the track was holding up fairly well up until that point. And obviously it's frustrating for everybody involved, but ultimately this last downpour, it's got the better of it, and it's not just about how the track rides, it's about visibility as well. Rider safety is obviously most important, so the right decision's been made. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, restaging next Monday, but before that you have got a fixture at Alderton, Kings Lynn in the first leg of the Premiership League Cup, and a fixture that's been a long time coming.
Yeah, really looking forward to that though. Kings Lynn have got a good team now, despite their league position. They've got a good team together. The late changes made a big difference, so I expect them to keep us on our toes. So we'll need to be as dominant against them as we were against Bellevue, and if we are, then we'll build up a good lead. But we need to stay focused and keep doing what we're doing, because there will be a tough test.
Yeah, and they've had two recent visits as well, and Sheffield pulled away late on in both of those fixtures, but like you say, they've certainly got enough to keep it close for the majority of the meeting.
Well, they've got riders who can ride Sheffield very well, and they've shown at the end of the season that with the changes they've made, they're a force to be reckoned with. So we certainly won't be taking anything for granted. And like you said, they've had 2 recent visits, so their riders have had a taste for Ollerton, so we'll have to be at our best and continue our good form.
Yeah, and just finally, obviously, with the second leg against Wolverhampton at Ollerton the following Thursday, it is the final chance, not only a cup final, but also a chance for the Sheffield riders to get those final laps in ahead of the biggest meeting of the season at Ollerton.
Yeah, that's right. So actually, the running for the end of the season is probably more favourable to us than most. We get to stay busy, which I think is a good thing. I just desperate for our fans to turn out and support us in good numbers, and we'll be giving it our best for them.
Sheffield team manager Simon Stead. We should also take this opportunity to wish Peter Adams, Simon's opposite number on Monday night, the Wolves team boss, all the best, because Pete had a bit of a fall in the pits, nasty fall actually, and he's bashed his face up a little bit. He's got some facial injuries and some bruising as well, and so now he's resting up at home. So get well soon, Peter, and hopefully see you back at the track soon enough. I'm sure he'll be back as soon as he possibly can be. But a legend of the sport, and certainly a legend of British Speedway, is Peter Adams. Danny King. He
is. I didn't realise that, so that's sad to hear. But I'll go along with that. I hope he's on the mend and he's not too bad and he's back up on his feet soon.
Absolutely, and all the best to Pete, as Danny said there. So in the Premiership over this next week then, on Thursday, September 29th, it's Ipswich versus Bellevue, which will now be the first semi-final clash to happen. 7:30 the start time at Vauxhall, and that will be live on Eurosport 2. Sheffield versus Kings Lynn takes place at Ollerton, and that's in the Premiership League Cup final, the first leg of that at 7:30 at Ollerton. And then the next fixtures will be on Monday in the Premiership. We've got the second leg of that clash between Bellevue and Ipswich from the National Speedway Stadium, and that one is live on Eurosport 2. There'll be regular updates from Monmore as Wolverhampton restage that fixture from this last Monday against Sheffield, and that'll be the first leg of that other semi-final, with the second part to be run next Thursday, October the 6th. It's getting busy, isn't it? We're into October, but there's plenty of action going on, shall we say, Danny, for you Speedway riders?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I understand why they did it the way they did it this year. They wanted to get the cup over, and I don't think that's a bad idea, to be honest. I just think maybe we need to try and squeeze the league campaign into the remaining months a little bit better. We shouldn't really be still trying to fit in them sort of meetings come October. We should be well and done early September, and then we've got sort of probably 6 weeks at the end of the year to sort the playoffs out, because obviously we know the weather's turning, we know the rain likes to come this time of year, and you don't want to be sort of cancelling meetings when you've not got many fixtures available to restage them. So tricky time of year, but it's the same every year. We always talk about this and we always end up in the same situation. So I'm sure we'll be all right. I'm sure we'll get it in. We normally do, or we always do. And it just means it's going to be a real busy 4 weeks.
Danny King, captain of the Ipswich Witches, is our special guest this week on No Breaks, No Fear. And in the next part, we'll be switching to his other team, because he's also captain of Poole Pirates in the Championship. And, Poole, always a strong side, and they're through to the semi-finals of the playoffs there. And a bit of controversy in the first staging of the clash between the Glasgow Tigers and the Poole Pirates. We'll talk more about that. They're back in action on Wednesday with the second leg to come this coming weekend. But, playoff and rain-off, certainly phrases that maybe do or don't mix. And we'll talk about that in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back to No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast, and our special guest this week is captain not only of the Ipswich Witches, as we've been talking about in the Premiership, but also captain of the reigning champions of the Championship, the Poole Pirates, who are still fighting on 3 fronts for silverware. They've got the Jubilee League. They're in the final already as well for the Knockout Cup in the Championship and into the semi-finals of the playoffs in the league. So could be a very big finish for the Poole Pirates. Standing in their way at the moment, though, are the Glasgow Tigers. But to get to the semi-finals, the Poole Pirates had to do it the long way this time. Had to go through the quarter-finals and a bit of a demolition job against the Plymouth Gladiators. So cleanly through to the semi-finals. But Plymouth, a side that one way or another you've met 8 times this season.
Yeah, I think it's been a different team every time.
I was going to say, the riders have changed. It's like Trigger's brush on Only Fools and Horses in a way, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the best way to describe it. I love that. A Trigger's brush. You've got to feel for them a bit as well. They've had a lot of injuries and all sorts, but that's just Speedway, and we've all been in teams like that. We've all been in that position before. So, we slipped up a little bit mid-season. We had a bit of a bad run, and we even lost at home, which is not ideal. But we still made the playoffs, and yes, we did have to go the long way as such, but we've managed to get through that, and now we're pushing on. Obviously, it was a shame not to get the first leg done at Glasgow on Sunday, was it? There was a bit controversial. I don't feel it should have been called off whatsoever. The track was absolutely fine. I think it was more a case of they probably lost their home track advantage and wasn't keen to carry on. But it is what it is. We're going back again now, and we'll have to go and see what we can do.
Yes, well, I was at Ashfield on Sunday, and I think it's fair to say that, shall we say, contrasting reactions after the Championship playoff semi-final at Ashfield was abandoned after 5 completed races. The Tigers were leading 17-13 when a halt was called after the first attempt to run Heat 6, which saw home guest Paul Stark fall on the third bend. There'd been an earlier delay to the meeting because of some rain. It means that now Wednesday's fixture at Wimborne Road becomes the first leg. Leicester, of course, await the overall winners in the grand final. More about Leicester in a moment. Let's hear now what Cammy Brown, the Glasgow team boss, had to say after that abandonment, speaking to Hayley Bromley from British Speedway Network.
So I'm with Cammy Brown, team manager of Glasgow. Cammy, unfortunately no result here tonight at the Peugeot Ashfield Stadium. Just talk us through what happened there and why we had to postpone.
Well, obviously the weather's intervened a little bit. The track became tricky. We decided to run the last race to see how things went, and we're on a 5-1 and Paul Stark falls off with no one near him and gives himself quite a nasty bang into the fence quite hard. I mean, the track's not, it was rideable, you could ride a bike around it, but you can't race it. So, we're semi-final, we need to be able to race. I'm sure Poole at their track would have felt exactly the same. But ultimately it's down to the referee, and the referee's made a decision. Poole didn't like it. That's sorry, it's just Speedway, unfortunately. And it's a shame that the only rain-off we've had at Glasgow this season happens to be in the semi-final.
And when you've not been at home for 7 weeks as well, which is no help. Unfortunately, the result, as we say, does not stand, so we will have to start again. But as you say, we would have liked to get a result tonight, but really what we want is 15 heats of Speedway in a semi-final.
Correct. We want 30 heats, competitive Speedway. Poole are a very good team, we're a good team. Let's actually have a meeting or 2 meetings that actually decide it rather than track conditions deciding it. So unfortunately that's the way things went tonight, unfortunately.
Now the second leg at Poole now becomes the first leg at Wimborne Road this coming Wednesday. Obviously it's very premature of me to ask, but any rough ideas as to when this meeting will be restaged at this point?
Don't have an idea as yet. Maybe this coming Saturday, but we don't know. We'll know later on tonight, tomorrow. Obviously have to speak to Poole and see how they feel as well. But yeah, hopefully the weather at Poole looks better on Wednesday night, so we should get that first leg on. It'll be a frosty one, but we'll go down and try our best.
Well, Cammy, commiserations to both teams. We're looking forward to things here tonight on BSN, but hopefully we'll be back to catch the action when this meeting's restaged.
Fingers crossed. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Well, of course, BSN and indeed the riders and everyone else will be back on this Saturday at 3 o'clock, the start time at Ashfield, the 1st of October, for the restaging of that fixture. We've heard there what Cammy Brown, the Glasgow team manager, had to say. Danny, you were, of course, riding in that meeting. In fact, you rode in heat number 5, the last completed race. You won it by quite a distance. What was the track like to ride on? Because there was various discussions going on. You were involved in these discussions because Cammy Brown there saying that the track was rideable but not raceable. What were your thoughts?
I disagree, but look, as I said at the end of the day, you've got two different scenarios there. For us as an away team, it's the perfect time to go if the track's not up to their liking. It suits us probably more than it suits them. It just makes it a bit more even. But on the other hand, I can see where they're coming from. They've lost their home track advantage. It's a semi-final at the end of the day, and they want as much help and advantage as they can on their home track. Otherwise, it's not ideal. So it was a tricky situation, but I can honestly say that track was okay, and all 7 of us were happy to race on it. I felt you could easily race on it. I don't agree with what Cammy just said there, but that's just my opinion.
And the referee was Wayne Jarvis. Ultimately, he called the meeting off. He was also involved in the British final when the rain was coming down there in Manchester as well. So he's had a few experiences of rain-offs this season. And we saw on BSN that yourself and Cammy Brown, Danny Ford and Tom Brennan were having the discussions with the referee. What were the options being discussed there? Because there was track work going on, wasn't there, to try and get it on? What were the discussions? What were the options?
Yeah, no, to be fair, I can't say I agree with all the decisions that Wayne made that night, but the way he handled the track prep was brilliant. He asked the captains and the team managers to come and look at the track and asked us what we wanted to do. And me and Tom both agreed what was needed, and he made sure that was done. And I must say, when the job was done, the track looked great. As I say, it wasn't wet. This is the most disappointing part of the whole thing when they called it off. The track was not wet. It dried out, it turned over, and I think we would have had a good race meeting. But at the end of the day, he has to make a tough decision. And if he's got 7 riders saying he wants to ride and 7 that they don't, I don't know how he comes to the decision, but he's got to make it. And he obviously decided to go with the home team.
And one of the other decisions that you're probably alluding to there, Steve Worrell. We've got a chat with Steve Worrell, a bit of an interview with him, and he covers this a little bit. But the incident with him was he was excluded, was it Heat 3, where he was at the tapes, but he was off his bike doing a bit of gardening. Now, at Glasgow, they've got the countdown clock, haven't they, for the 2 minutes, which is like you have in Poland. But in the British League, that we don't work to Polish rules or FIM rules where it's down to 0 and then you start. Obviously, he was off his bike at that moment. The start marshal pointed at the 2 minute clock, and then the red lights came on.
So, yeah, according to Steve, the 2 minute clock wasn't on because that heat was rerun. So I'm not sure what happened. I think Steve actually got a warning for moving in the first staging of it, and obviously the 2 minutes come back on. But as far as I'm led to believe, I don't know, the 2 minute clock did not come back on for the second staging of that race. So when Steve got to the start, there was no 2 minute clock. And obviously he wasn't the only rider not at the tapes when he got excluded, which seems crazy. If all 3 are at the tapes and your guys off his bike and not playing ball, that's fine. I can understand the decision, but there was 2 riders who wasn't at the tapes when he got excluded, one of theirs and one of ours, and I can't get my head around it. It's a strange decision, but it is what it is.
I mean, Steve Worrell is one of the cooler customers, I think, of Speedway. He's always, really relaxed. We've had him as a guest on this podcast, of course, and you can listen back to that whenever you like. And for him to be so incensed by a refereeing decision that he then rode his bike through the tapes, I think, told its own story. Steve has been reflecting on his trip to Glasgow at the weekend with Ryan Guest.
A quick word on the Glasgow one as well. I know there was a situation when you were racing where you were excluded, which didn't go down too well with yourself. And for you to tweet after a meeting probably does sum up how frustrated you were as well.
Yeah, I don't really go on. I don't really. Yeah, I'm on social media, but I don't usually put stuff. But no, a few people was saying things. So I thought, well, and I'd just like to put my point out there. But no, I don't usually get wound up. I'm quite a calm guy, and I just feel like sometimes when things are done in the wrong way, they need to be addressed. And if you just let people get away with it, they do it all the more. So no, I felt like something needed saying at that point, or a statement needed making, because it's just these meetings are so important. We've raced all year, we've raced our nuts off all year to get to these semi-finals, and then there's things going on like that, and you just think, like, it makes you think, is it worth it? And then I've drove all the way there last night, come here tonight, 2 days no pay. In fact, it's probably cost me quite a lot of money, because we're still here, we still have mechanics to pay for, everything, fuel, I know the fans are here. They've spent a lot of money getting here as well. So everyone loses out when it's a rain off. But sometimes when decisions are made like that, you've got to put your foot down a bit. And I just thought that last night that was one of them times. I'm all for it. If I'm wrong, we'll all roll and we'll all do certain things, and we get away with it and come back and have a giggle. But when you're not in the wrong and you believe it, I did what I did, don't regret it, so it's what it is.
Steve Worrell on a frustrating trip to Glasgow at the weekend. Now, the two sides face each other on Wednesday night at Poole Stadium, what now will be the first leg. And if a clash between the Glasgow Tigers and the Poole Pirates wasn't mouth-watering enough, we've now got the events of last weekend, which have added a little extra spice to the mix, don't you think, maybe, Danny King?
It has, but, at the end of the day, it's playoff speedway. Tensions are high. It's ultimately what the season is run for. It all comes down to these playoffs, and it doesn't really matter who beats who during the season. What matters is who beats who in the playoffs, as long as you can get there. So it's always going to be like that. Tensions are always going to be high, and as you say, there's probably a little bit more rivalry now going into Wednesday's meeting. But that's what it is, and hopefully we need to knuckle down.
And obviously be looking to take as much of a lead as possible. Do you have a minimum target of, say, 8 points, 10 points, 12 points, or is it just literally a case of score as many as possible and go with the best lead you can to Glasgow?
As much as we can get. It's so difficult to try and predict a figure. We will just take as much as we can. Glasgow can be a tricky place to go to, and they are very good at home when they're all performing on their day. So I don't think you can say, we need 10 or we need 15 or whatever it is. The plan will be hit as many points as we can and take as many up north.
Poole versus Glasgow on Wednesday, and then the return scheduled for Saturday, and that'll be a 3:00 start at Ashfield, by the way. The winners will face the Leicester Lions, who are the first team through to the Championship Grand Final after a 53-37 home win over Edinburgh to progress by 33 points on aggregate. The Lions were in control after Friday's first leg and marched on to a comfortable victory on their own track, despite the withdrawal of number one Nick Morris, who suffered a heavy landing when he looped shortly after the start of Heat 1. We'll talk a bit more about that in a sec, but I don't know if you were watching the clash between Edinburgh and Leicester, and particularly the first leg of that semi-final at Armadale, and a huge win for the Leicester Lions on Edinburgh's home circuit. I don't think many people saw that one coming.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I mean, Leicester have a team that would ride Edinburgh very well, and they proved that, but I just didn't see that happening because Edinburgh are so strong at home. I knew they would run them close. I thought they would keep it close and obviously do it in the return leg, but to go up there and win by that many points was impressive. It was impressive, and you have to take your hat off to them. Fair play. They rode hard, they deserved it, and now they're through to the final.
Well, let's hear from the team manager of the Leicester Lions. Stuart Dixon has been speaking with BSN, British Speedway Network.
Yeah, we're very happy. I think there's a good atmosphere around the stadium as people are walking out, people are leaving. Good feeling in the pits. Fully deserved over the 2 legs, definitely. We've covered both of them here at BSN. We feel it's justified to be in the final. We finished top of the league, and we've now got a chance. We'll await the winners, the two very good teams, Poole and Glasgow, in the semi-final, and we'll know our fate. At the end of those two meetings, it's going to be tough, no matter who we get. But we're just glad that we managed to overcome Edinburgh, and we look forward to when the final takes place. Yeah.
I mean, the boys did a sensational job at Armadale. Not many people saw that result coming. You fancy the damage to Edinburgh was already done before we started here, but you hammered into the boys. No complacency. Even losing Nick Morris, they all stepped up and got the job done for you.
Yeah, we definitely did. We covered for Nick very well tonight. I think we've shown all season we are very strong round the home track. I thought it was some really good racing tonight. We prepared the track a little bit more grippier than normal. Thompson boys responded really well, some good passing, and as I say, Sam Masters was excellent first 4 races. Came a bit unstuck. I seen him having problems with his shoulder in the pitch, so I was talking to him, and I felt like if he jumped out in front of him, make a difference. But some good races to watch, was good. Max Clegg, some overtakes on the outside as well, Josh Pickard, and I just love to watch. He's an opposition rider, but excellent to watch. But I thought it was a good night's entertainment, and Leicester in the final, so we're all very happy round about this area tonight. Yeah.
And just very, very quickly, finally, out of Poole and Glasgow, who would you most like to meet in the grand final?
I think it's going to be tough whoever we get. I wouldn't really like to say. I think it's too close to call. I don't really have a preference. If you'd asked me a couple of months ago, I'd have said Glasgow. After Wednesday night, I'm not so sure I'm going to go this way. They're two really good teams. I wouldn't like to say. I think it's going to be a humdinger semi-final. That one's going to be really close.
Well, congratulations to Stuart Dixon and his Leicester Lions, who are through to the grand final of the Championship playoffs and now have a crack at the title. Of course, that title currently held by the Poole Pirates, and it'll be them or Glasgow facing them. Whoever gets through to the final, though, Danny, I've got to say, you're going to need your gating gloves on, because the Leicester Lions were lightning out of the traps at both Armadale and at their own place last weekend. Yeah, definitely. They were gating fantastically, and They are a team of gators, there's no secret. But 100%. When we raced in the week before, we had our gating gloves on, and they didn't seem to have theirs. So hopefully that will be the case if we meet them again, if we get that far. And it's going to be tight either way. Whatever happens, it's going to be a tough contest. I'm not sure if you saw the incident with Nick Morris that we mentioned, but in Heat 1, a freak thing happened. He dropped the clutch, and his clutch plate disintegrated. It was saw it on BSN. It was all snapped in half. Have you ever seen anything like that before? Because it sent him looped over the top, and he had to withdraw from the rest of the meeting. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I've never seen an alloy plate snap in half before. That's a first. But I have seen similar things happen. Quite often, you can have a clutch cable snap or a clutch arm break, or the counter shaft can. The clutch arm can come separated from the counter shaft if it's not been done up properly, and this will all cause the same thing. It means that the clutch will engage when you're trying to feather the bike and keep the front down, and if that happens, you're a passenger, as you see with Nick. He's a professional speedway rider, and you very, very rarely do you see a professional speedway rider flip a motorbike, and unfortunately, he couldn't do anything about that, and obviously good to hear he's not hurt, because it's a nasty one as well. Well, it's your home leg, and I think the weather is good for that at Poole Stadium on Wednesday evening at 7:30, and then the rearranged trip to Glasgow is set for Saturday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's going to be a lot of rain on Friday and maybe some on Saturday morning, and we're hoping we're going to get away with it on Saturday afternoon. Fingers crossed. From my experience, there's always a chance of rain in Scotland. So, that's a fair point. I don't know. As I say, majority of the time up north we've been racing in the rain, so it wouldn't surprise me. I think you just mentally prepare yourself for that, and if it's dry, it's a bonus. That's certainly the way I think. So, Poole Pirates captain Danny King with us this week on No Brakes, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast. We've got a few other things to chat about in the next parts, and we'll have a look ahead to the fixtures for the next week across British Speedway, all on the way in just a couple of moments.
No Brakes, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back, I'm Ian Brannan. Our guest this week is Danny King, captain of the Poole Pirates and the Ipswich Witches, and former British champion, and he was almost British champion this year as well when he finished fourth. But somebody who has become a champion is Jordan Jenkins this weekend. He was crowned National Development League Riders Champion with an impressive performance at Scunthorpe on Sunday. The Oxford skipper won the prestigious meeting on 14 points, one ahead of the former champion Max Clegg, who defeated Jason Edwards in a runoff for second place after they both finished on 13. Jenkins dropped his only points in Heat 9 to Edwards in what was at the time a clash of the three unbeaten riders, as Joe Thompson and Ben Morley had won their first two outings, and then he won a crunch clash with Max Clegg in Heat 14 and clinched the title in Heat 20, with the race being awarded after Jack Kingston fell at the end of lap 3. But I think it's a big thing, this obviously for Jordan Jenkins, not just for him personally to have the trophy, but also as a reward for the effort he's put in this year, because I know from speaking to him, in the winter, actually, heading into this season, how fired up he was, how much effort he'd put in, and also riding abroad as well. He'd taken this move to ride in the under-24 league in Poland with Czestochowa, and obviously he's learnt a lot there because his performances have been great also with Redcar, and then now with Peterborough as well. So, this title, all part of his improvement through the course of the last 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, he thoroughly deserves it. He's knuckled down a lot this year, and he's certainly took advantage of the rising star situation in England, and obviously the under-24 league in Poland. He's committed himself. He's obviously invested some money, and I think you can see that it's now showing in his performances everywhere, in every league, and well done to him. That's a big meeting to go and win, and there's a lot of pressure as well. So at the end of the day, I think he's had a good year, and he's got to be happy with everything, and he's obviously got the cup final as well with Redcar to still go. So
yeah, I was going to say you're going to be facing him very soon, aren't you? Because that's coming up in the next week or so, and you're the reigning champions with that tournament as well. But I know Redcar, they won it in 2019, didn't they? But I think they've also got I've seen some of the Redcar fans have dug up an old score from something like 1990 between Redcar and or maybe the Middlesbrough Bears in 1990 against Poole Pirates. So that it's sort of unearthed an old wound, I think, with some of the old supporters.
That's a long way there to go back, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. But they found it. They found it.
Well, good on them. Good on them. Look, it's going to be a tricky tie again. They're back to full strength now. I believe Eric Riss is back as well, and we all know how strong they are at home as well. So I think it's going to be a lot of gating. Going to come down to the gating, and obviously how much we can lead by from our home leg. If we obviously get a good win, we need to take as many points as we can on the road. That's the plan always in these ties.
And one other thing to mention, something that did happen at Wolves, actually, even though the meeting was rained off, was that legendary writer and broadcaster Nigel Pearson was posthumously inducted into British Speedway's Hall of Fame. The award, of course, marks the outstanding commitment to the sport over an extensive time period and was presented to members of Nigel's family prior to Monday's ultimately postponed Premiership playoff at Wolverhampton. And, of course, the entire sport was shocked by Nigel's sudden passing just before Easter, and news of the award was warmly received at Monmore, where he'd previously worked as track announcer but also press officer, programme editor, and commentated on countless meetings there as well. But great to see Nigel's name forever alongside the greats of Speedway.
Yeah, that's a lovely touch. I did see that on the TV, and what a lovely thing to do. He was the voice of the sport, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that. He's a fantastic commentator and a great person. I had many good times with Nigel, and many fun conversations on the phone, and I could probably tell a few stories on the road as well. He's just a fun guy to be around, a lovely human being, and to see that happen, I just think it's great. It's really, really nice, and it's thoroughly deserved, 100%.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Well, look, thanks for joining us, Danny. What are you excited for in Speedway then over this next week? What you're fired up for?
I don't know. Everything. It's just going to be busy. It's a funny time of year. There's a lot of emotions going around. As I said, this is the business end now. No slip ups. You can't have any problems. Everything needs to be perfect. And every point counts, obviously. So it's quite a lot of pressure on you. It's a stressful time of year, but it can also be a rewarding time of year, and that's what it's all about. So I'm looking forward to every one of the meetings coming up, but I'm just going to take one at a time. So moving on to Poole on Wednesday.
Well, let's have a look at the fixtures coming up over the next week in British Speedway, and that fixture you mentioned there, Poole versus Glasgow Championship playoff semi-final. The first leg of that takes place 7:30 Poole Stadium. Then on Thursday, back to Premiership action. Ipswich versus Bellevue in the first leg of their semi-final at 7:30 at Vauxhall. And it's the first leg of the Premiership League Cup final at Oleton as Sheffield host Kings Lynn. On Friday, we have action at Armadale in the National League, where the Armadale Devils host the Bellevue Colts at 7:30. And in Poland, Torun Torren. It's the World Under-21 final, SGP2, as you probably know it. That's on Friday. And then on Saturday, the main Grand Prix, of course, the Polish Grand Prix at Torren. We know that Bartosz Szmaszlik is already the champion, but the other medals are still to be decided. And Robert Lambert certainly could overhaul Patrick Dudek and get himself into third. Technically, he could get himself into second, but he'd need a bit of a miracle on that one. And Dan Bewley still got a chance of getting a medal as well. And those positions set to be decided. But I don't know if you've been watching the Grand Prix. I suspect you have. But it's been terrific to see how well represented Britain's been in the Grand Prix series, with Ty Woofenden finishing probably in the top 8, Dan Bewley finishing in the top 6 most likely, along with Robert Lambert, and brilliant that we're looking to have 3 more British riders in the Grand Prix next year.
Yeah, we have. I mean, I think one rider stands out more than the others, and you have to take your hat off to Dan Bewley. First of all, to have the nerve to go to Cardiff and get the win there. I mean, wow, that's just crazy. And he did it in such good fashion as well, so stylish. And, I was so pleased for him. He's a nice lad, and he thoroughly deserved it. But then again, to go one more and to get a second GP win is massive. It's huge. And I think now he's found his feet. I think that's fair to say. And he feels settled. So I'd love to see Dan obviously stay in the Grand Prix next year, and I think he deserves it. But as you say, it's nice to see the other lads as well chipping in and being competitive, because that's what it's about.
I mean, there are some riders who go through their careers and never achieve what Dan Bewley's done in the last couple of months in winning a couple of rounds, and certainly winning Cardiff was incredible. And now he's got this final round knowing that whatever happens, he's assured of a place in next year's Grand Prix series. So chill out and enjoy.
Yeah, perfect. Happy days. Yeah, good on him. Hopefully he can go out in good fashion and style at Torren. And as you say, he can relax now, obviously knowing he's got the team, the spot next year.
Absolutely so. And looking forward to seeing what 2023 brings for these boys in the Grand Prix series. The other fixtures taking place, of course, we do have a couple of clashes. Glasgow versus Poole, as we know, set for Ashfield, 3:00 Saturday afternoon. Leicester versus Berwick in the National League on Saturday. Sunday, well, it's going to be a busy time for Tom Brennan, because he will be heading back straight out of Glasgow. He's coming in Saturday morning, I believe, and heading straight back out on Saturday night back to Poland, because it's the European Under-23 Championship final, the 4-team tournament in Krakow. So he's heading straight back there to be part of that. And then on Monday, it's Bellevue versus Ipswich in the Premiership playoff semi-final. That's the one that's going to be the main featured match on Eurosport from the National Speedway Stadium, with reports from Wolves versus Sheffield, which is a first leg tie. Bellevue Ipswich, of course, a second leg one, so a bit more riding on that, you would argue. And then on Tuesday, we've got National League action at Plymouth, where Plymouth Centurions take on the Armadale Devils in the National League at 7:00. And that's your next week in Speedway. Enjoy it. Don't forget, keep up to date with all the stuff that's happening across British Speedway on the British Speedway social media channels, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And enjoy any of the matches that you're either going to or watching on Eurosport 2, for the Premiership playoffs and the Championship playoffs are on BSN, British Speedway Network, so check those out. My thanks to Danny King, who will be appearing on both of those platforms over the next week or so. Thanks for joining us, Danny. Ride safe and good luck in your various endeavours with your various teams.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for having me, mate.
And thanks to you as well. We'll join you next week.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Between aging and busy lifestyles, many women struggle with maintaining their physical and mental wellness. At Aquavita Concierge Healthcare Services for Women, we can help you revitalize your health and reclaim your life. We start from within by balancing your hormones, allowing your body to achieve and maintain desired weight goals. We also specialize in peptide therapies, regenerative medicine, sexual health, and aesthetics in our state-of-the-art facilities. Feel better, look better, live better at Aquavita. Visit aquavitality.com and begin your journey today.